Aloha, I'm Chef Ronnie from Tiki's Grill and Bar. We are going to make Somen salad today, some local ingredients. We're going to make a sauce from scratch and show you how to cook the noodles and make a little tamago, a little egg in a nonstick pan. Let's go. Okay, so right here, chicken broth, rice vinegar, show you. Okay. Sesame oil, tablespoon of sugar. Okay, now I'm going to bring this to the stove and bring it to a boil. We're just going to bring it to a simmer and then turn it off. Okay, now we're going to cook the egg. Make the tamago part. Sometimes it has a little mid-in inside of it. If you have some at home, a little mid-in. Some people put a tiny bit of sugar in it. Everything is seasoned well with the soy sauce and all that, so you can put a little salt in the egg or not. I mean, either way. We're going to crack 2 eggs into this bowl. Okay. And then whip them. We should scramble these really good. So at this point, the sauce has come to a simmer. We're going to turn it off. We're not trying to reduce it down or anything or concentrate its flavors. It just needs to all be melted. The sugar needs to be melted and the flavors incorporated. So I'm preheating my nonstick pan that I'm going to use to cook the tamago, the egg inside of. I'm going to put a little bit of olive oil in there because that's what we have on hand. You can use vegetable oil, canola, a little sesame oil would be fine too because it matches flavor of the dish. I'm going to turn that off and leave it for a minute because that's going to carry over cook from all the stored heat inside of the pan. Recipe calls for a small cucumber. This looks like a lot of cucumber for this small amount of other things. The recipe also says to julienne it. So there's a lot of things you can do to a cucumber. You can cut it the long way and take the seeds out of it like a canoe if you want absolutely no seeds in it. This is more of a simple home recipe. I prefer not to waste any food. I like the seeds in the cucumber. I think they taste great. When I put it in a salad, I leave the seeds in it. Also, this recipe doesn't say to peel the cucumber. You could peel it if you don't like the peel on there. This is actually going to add another level of color to it as well. To not waste anything, I'm going to start in the middle of the cucumber, in fact, and I could reserve the rest of the cucumber for something else. So I made a diagonal cut. I'm following that cut. And then I'm simply going to julienne this. You don't have to do it all at once. And your level of your sharpness of your knife is important. The width of your knife, it depends what you have at home that you're cutting with. It being sharp is the most important thing. So I'm simply going to go like this. I'm following that cut. Okay. Same thing. If you're not confident about your cutting skills, you could do them one at a time. See, the carrot's the same thing. So carrot's harder vegetable. So this is a small carrot. Sometimes carrots come in giant sizes. Like the ones you buy in the restaurant they're massive. And then sometimes they're really small. Of course, you can buy baby carrots. It kind of depends what's available at your market. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to simply cut it on a bias. See where my fingertips are? My fingertips, I'm using the very tip of my finger to hold the carrot. You don't have to cut them this thin. Raw carrots have pleasant texture. Even, people eat carrot sticks with hummus. They don't have to be, it looks nicer in this dish if everything's really finely julienned. Don't risk cutting yourself. And then again, I'm just going to kind of line them up. You see my knuckles are actually vertical when I'm doing this cut, not fingertips protruding like this, always vertical against the knuckle. We're just going to slice these thin. Okay. A little bowl would have been good for these, I think. This recipe called for kamaboko, but Spam is more readily available. I don't think there's anywhere almost you can't buy Spam. Sometimes when I can't get the Spam out, I use the heel of a knife, a larger knife, and I just pop a hole in the bottom of it. And then it allows the air to get behind the Spam, and it comes out very easily that way. So for this recipe, since we're switching it to Spam, we're going to sear the Spam. Like I was saying earlier, if it was for musubi, I would make them thick and then fry them really hard. We'll just sear this a little bit, make it nice, caramelize it a tiny bit, and change that flavor. So back here I have the egg, tamago. I'm going to slide this right out of the cutting board so it's easy to cut here. Recycle my pan. If this wasn't a nonstick pan, it would be important that the pan was hot with oil in it before you put Spam or anything else in it, or it's going to stick. This is pleasant raw, just like it's used in Chinese chicken salad. So we're just going to julienne it and add it to the mix. As I get to the woodier part, the thicker part, I'm going even thinner. To make it a little more tender. So at this point, the Spam should be ready to flip. We're going to cook it a little more on the other side, and then it'll be done. We're going to julienne it. Okay, so next we're going to julienne the egg. Spam a little hot, don't burn your fingers. Let it cool off. Now we're going to cook the noodles. This recipe calls for 2 bundles. I'm going to assume that the amount of sauce is probably just about right for the 2 bundles, so I'm only going to cook the 2 bundles and reserve the other one for some other time. Boiling salted water. I think the recipe calls for a teaspoon or something. Don't make it too salty. The recipe says to cook the noodles for about 3 or 3.5 minutes. Whatever you're doing in the future, any kind of a recipe you're using a noodle for, you can always just go by the package instructions, whatever they say. They match this particular recipe because it's Somen noodles and they're a standard thickness. But if you're going to make this type of a salad with some other noodle, which you could use anything you wanted, I mean, it could be on udon. There's all sorts of cold noodles or, buckwheat noodles. Just make sure you follow the recipe on how the noodles are cooked. The Spam cooled off enough, so I'm julienne it a little bit more. Our noodles are cooking for 3 minutes. They should be just about done. You don't want to overcook them, undercook them, just follow the recipe. I'm going to take the noodles out and rinse them and strain them under cold water, and then we're going to assemble. A lot of noodles get really starchy We rinsed it good. We could probably rinse it even better if you wanted to. We could also toss it in some sesame oil, but this recipe just calls to follow right through, which is fine. We're not gonna let it sit around too long and turn into one big sticky ball. We're gonna put it right in the bowl and then build it and pour the dressing right over the top. It's better to have more toppings or as many toppings as you can have for your noodles. You know, if we're really on a budget, then you have a lot more noodles. Noodles are cheap and you have a lot more noodles. Like in Italian cooking, my mom would feed a bunch of us with a pound of pasta and tomato sauce and a little bit of meat. It goes a long way. If you want to make it more fancy and you have this stuff, you put extra Spam and extra egg and all that. So we're going to see what's going to fit on here. Some cabbage. We need some edamame that's not in the first recipe, but we're going to add it because we had some extra. And then we have our dressing. And then as the noodles are dehydrating from sucking up whatever extra water was on them, now they're going to start sucking up the dressing as well. And that's going to give the noodles more flavor. And there you have it, Spam Somen salad. I'm Chef Ronnie from Tiki's Grill and Bar, and this is Kids Cooking Local. We'll see you the next time.